also kind of circled scenario 2 as saying that's the one that's kind of like H289. It's not exactly like that. And I'll get into a little bit of differences, but so I'm just using that one as an example here. And so that's a 5% rate impact from the modeling that was done with a stakeholder advisory group that included REV and a number of broad array of stakeholders. And that what that equates to is $800 million over 10 years. So, 10 years, if our revenue is $1 billion to $1.5 billion a year, so we're like talking about 10 to $15 billion. $800 million is what that equates to in terms of what that scenario is. And those are costs above the benefits. So net costs to Vermont ratepayers, but it's the costs and benefits that hit Vermonters' pocketbooks. 800 million over 10 years is what the model's saying. And so I just want to make that really clear on what the H289 is spending. And there's a range of options. I'm not saying 800 million is the number. I'm not saying $500 million is the number, but there's a significant cost to H289. And those costs in the model also don't, I've mentioned this before and been very clear about this, they don't account for costs to the transmission and distribution system necessary to create headroom for all of that other generation. So there's no costs there associated with that. Today, there's some emerging information and data showing that there are significant transmission costs to getting the amount of solar that would be likely to be sited under a 20% tier 2. But I just wanted to be clear that the cost structure we're talking about does not account for this additional impact. Velco only talk about the transmission sector. On the distribution side, there are also costs. And so we're still trying to work with GMP and VEC at least to get a sense of what those costs are.
And also, I don't know how much the modeling captures the competitive impact that was noted before about, the more you restrict the alternatives and leverage of utilities, the more risk there is that we end up with more expensive power that we need. And I think the sort of final 2 points on this front, as I said before, we are already in a high stress environment because we are a high cost state for electricity, especially when we look at the lower 48 states that manufacturing and similar businesses compete in. So that's an existing pressure. So to unnecessarily choose a more expensive path, whether it's even if it's a couple of percentage points, I don't see the justification. I think it's concerning that if we would go down that road. We saw the news with Soundview just the other day about how even now electric costs are a serious drain on and concern for manufacturers and other companies in this state. And you have to also remember, businesses make long-range plans. They look several years down the road and make their decisions on where they're going to go. If we have, to simplify, 2 paths toward a clean portfolio, and one is more expensive than the other, and we choose the more expensive path, that's not a positive signal that you're sending to businesses in terms of how policy is going to develop in the state and how their costs that they're trying to deal with now are going to evolve over time. So again, I think we can have a clean portfolio, and we should try to do it in the most flexible and affordable way possible.